Hi Libra, this is your astrology for the month of November. Hmm. Um, Before I get into anything, I like to try to remember to say to everybody, this is for Libra, Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus. But if you're following it, like you're coming to me because your Venus is in Libra, this is not necessarily going to be a love reading. This is more of, this is where your sensitivities are, whether they're in the positive or the negative. I don't do Venus. I don't see Venus as love. I see Venus as sensitivity. So I wanted to bring that part out first. You are going to be dealing with coming to new realizations of your responsibilities to yourself in some ways, your ability to work with yourself in some ways over the month of November. Some of your morals, some of your ethics. But it is definitely, and this is all across the board for everyone, I'm getting communication interests. For you, this is going to be, and when I say communication interests, it's because Mercury is in retrograde for the month of November up until what? The 20th of November when Mercury goes direct. And you are definitely going to be connecting with some of your inner child, and where your inner child is trying to communicate with you and tell you pieces of yourself that you're not connecting with. So it's going to be speaking to you of where the true enjoyment and your true pursuit of pleasure that you're seeking in life maybe aren't exactly being found. As well as you're going to be having conversations with yourself and possibly the family, because what I'm getting is typically family judgment. But I feel like this is more judgment you placed upon yourself, but it may be family judgment. And self-undoing or self-deception relating to grief, sorrow, shame, and blame that you're holding on to. But definitely there's some judgment going on. But I feel like the judgment is what you place upon yourself. Maybe the family isn't necessarily judging you, but you fear they are, or you think they are. Or maybe it's just, like I said, it's not even family. It might just be judgment you're putting on yourself. Trying to go at your own pace instead of the pace that's right for you. Some stubborn inflexibility. Possibly even thinking you know it all about a situation, but you're actually wrong. And some rules, laws, and boundaries that need to be shifted. There's some frustration, too, that's being held on to for many of you. Okay, that's pretty much what I'm getting from Spirit right off the bat. That would be validation. That it's that you know, a lot of that is, a lot of you are inflexible and stubborn and think you know the situation, but you may find out that what you believe you know about a situation is not exactly entirely true. And I feel like a lot of that is coming down to that judgment. You're judging yourself incorrectly. I think being too hard on yourself. And it's your responsibility to learn that and start loving yourself and treating yourself better is what I feel like I'm getting. You may start noticing it also around the full moon too. Anyway, when I get into, as for some of you, there's some travel that either needs to happen or is going to happen, which is connected with your morals, your urges, your morals, your ethics, your spiritual urges, your philosophy, your religion, your higher self. Connected, that travel may have something to do with connecting to a higher level of your truth and something that should happen. maybe to make the truth be known. It might be about healing for yourself, a transformation. This month, though, for a lot of people, is like a resurrection, a regeneration of cycles. But we're responsible for our own resurrection, our own rebirthing. And that's because we have a double Scorpio new moon at the end of the month. And I will get into that when we get into the houses directly. I'm going to run down what all the planets are that are moving, and then we'll hit the... I feel like something's coming at you from left field, or something about your own subconscious is coming at you from left field. But it's something you know, something you're aware of, but you're trying not to be aware of. Your coulda, shoulda, wouldas. You're holding on. In some cases, you're holding on to your coulda, shoulda, wouldas. Like, I could have done that. If it would have gone this way, then I would have, or I coulda, shoulda, woulda. If I coulda, things would have been different. And you're holding on to that and making predictions and judgments according to what you're feeling or what your perception is. But that's your perception, and it could possibly be an ill perception that you've created for yourself, because I'm being brought to karmic lessons. It's self-deception and self-undoing. So some of this is like a perception that you have about yourself, or a judgment of yourself, or that others may have of you. And it's not really a truth. It's false. And I feel like you're being really rough on yourself. In some cases, holding on to your coulda, shoulda, wouldas. And you're not really willing to hear the truth, because you're so stuck in what you think you know. But that's part of how you're going to get back to the true depths of self and find inner emotional security, by making these changes and allowing this healing to happen and being responsible to yourself. Yeah, this has a lot to do with being responsible to yourself, to loving yourself and accepting of yourself. Are we done? Yeah, I think we're done for that point. Okay, so obviously Mercury is in retrograde. Mercury is your communication systems. It is how you communicate with yourself. It is your brain. It's the way your brain is thinking, and it only wants to communicate with you when Mercury is in retrograde. When it is direct, we communicate outwardly with everyone else. But when it's in retrograde, we tend to be a little bit self-centered. We don't even mean to be, we just are. We can get a little narcissistic in our own ways because we're being self-centered, but that's not entirely our fault when Mercury is in retrograde. We cannot help it. Like I said, our communication systems really are only talking to us. And for you, this is happening in Scorpio, which I believe is your second house of your self-worth, your self-value, and your self-esteem. Yeah. And this is also where your new moon is coming in. And it's a double new moon. I'm going to get to all of that in a minute. Mercury is in retrograde until the 20th of the month. On the 1st and on the 8th. The 1st, Venus moves into Sagittarius. On the 8th, Pallas moves into Sagittarius. This is with Jupiter and Ceres. But Ceres will only be there for a portion of the month, and then Ceres is moving out. I'm going to go through every house and explain this as I get there, and I'm going to try to put it all in one video. I usually can only do about 30 minutes before it starts to shut off. So I'm going to try. But on the 4th, we have Jura, or Jura, however you want to pronounce it. That's sacrificing commitment. And this is moving into Libra. So this is coming into your core energies. Plus you have Haumea here and Make, which is your collective consciousness. And where are you on the lotus flower of its growth? And the lotus flower grows in like a muddy, murky swamp. But it's supposed to be one of the spiritually elevated symbols of spiritual growth. It's a beautiful flower, but it grows in some of the worst, nastiest places. So the point is growing into your soulfulness, growing into your spiritualness, growing into your oneness. But sometimes we have trouble growing because we're still in the muddy, murky mud, the swamp, and we can't see the light through the shit. And this is asking us, are we still in the swamp? Are we still in the swamp and all we can see is the swamp, so we can't find the light? Or are we starting to lift to the frothy mixture of, the air of the world that we see and we breathe versus the swamp where it's kind of coming out? And it's starting to realize there is an above and a below. There is a better place. There is a better way. And then there's where the flower is grown all the way up into where it blooms. So where are you on the flower? Where are you on its growth? In the swamp? In the frothy middle? Or are you starting to actually stretch your wings and fly, bloom is the idea here. And it's coming back into asking you where you are on your self-worth, your self-value, your self-esteem, your self-love. And where are you able to bring that self-love forward because you deserve it? Your collective consciousness is asking Palace as it moves in, not Palace, Ura as it moves in, where's the sacrifice and commitment to yourself and that self-worth, self-value, and self-esteem? On the 12th, you have a full moon, which is going to take place in Taurus, and I'm going to come back for that in a minute. This is going to have Uranus here in it, which is in retrograde as well. It also has Vesta in it, and Uranus is moving in retrograde towards Eris, which is who I call Medusa. So this has a little bit to do with that very same kind of energy, but we'll get there in a minute. On the 16th and 17th, somewhere in between these 2 days, Ceres is moving into Capricorn with Pluto and Saturn, taking a whole new spin on these energies. And for Spirit was just saying that's also going to deal with you and your pursuit of pleasure directly. I see how they mean that, but I'll get to that in a minute. It'll be also, Ceres is also going to be, when it comes into into Pluto, Capricorn, Pluto, Saturn, and Ceres will start having a conversation about the threefold theory, about nurturing and neglecting, how and what part of your inner emotional security will help you find your pursuit of pleasure again, so you can find true enjoyment. But it's definitely going to come down to, Spirit says, sacrificing commitment to yourself and allowing yourself to have that self-love. Then you're going to have on the 19th, Mars is moving into Scorpio. On the 20th, Mercury is going direct. On the 22nd, the Sun moves into Sagittarius. Venus will spend no time in Sagittarius as it moves in on the 1st, but it will move out on the 22nd and go into Capricorn with Pluto, Ceres, and Saturn. You'll have the new moon on the 26th, which for some reason is very much going to be important for you because they're showing me it very highlighted in green, which is about growth. So it's definitely, you're definitely having a growth of the month. And this is a second new moon in Scorpio, because on October, the end of the month, we had a new moon in Scorpio. So it's not just one cycle. It's like adding a cycle on top of the cycle. It's extending the cycle. It's stating that you weren't going to learn the whole thing in one cycle, that you had to go through what you're going to go through this month in order to get what you're trying to get to by the 26th when that new moon comes. And the new moons are about new beginnings, new goals, new directions, new desires, and starting to bring them into light. But we have Neptune on the 27th, which is going to go direct. And Neptune is definitely having a conversation with Halley's Comet. Halley's Comet is not close enough to us. We will not start seeing it until 2049. But it is in the orbit. They're coming past each other in an orbit right now. Neptune is and Halley's Comet, which is also speaking to us all the way back to like the 80s. I mean, like 1980 through 1984, and cycles that began then and they're coming to a closing, and cycles that are about to, a closing of a cycle from the 80s, and then a brand new one beginning. And we're going to be acknowledging that over the next 4 years, but they're starting now. And this has to do with Neptune's magic. And are you creating it, or are you in nostalgia? Because it's definitely going to be bringing up some darker stuff for you to acknowledge so that you can bring healing forward. Now, when we get to where Neptune is, we'll have that conversation. All right. So, Libra. First off, you have Mars in your sign with Ura. Mars will be here until the 19th. So the first half of the month, more or less, right up until after that full moon, in your very self-awareness. Mars is our inner warrior, our inner SWAT team. Our inner warrior, our inner SWAT team. I also call it our inner belly dancer. And the reason I say that is I don't care if you're the skinniest person or the chubbiest person, if you're the tallest or the shortest. The point is when you get into your how you feel about your inner belly dancer, you feel good about yourself. You're wanting to stretch your stuff. It's kind of like if you look in the mirror and you're like, yeah, I look good, or what the fuck happened here? You know? When you feel good about yourself, you stretch yourself a little bit more. You have confidence. Mars is trying to bring that confidence and that passion, action, and aggression into your very self-awareness, your physical body. But with you being a Libra sign, it also makes you question if you're doing it too much or if you're not doing it enough. Libra is all about harmony and balance. The problem with Libra often is you want so much to create harmony and balance that you suffer and you don't give yourself it because you try to give it to everybody else. And that's a big portion of what this month is going to be about. Your self-love. Taking that time for self-awareness, for your own self-love. For your own personality, for your own appearance, for your own ability to be you, your own identification, your view of life, and for it to be yours. And the harmony and balance to be balanced with you, not with you being neglected from it, because you tried to make everything else better. Unfortunately, it's one of the, I give Libra a hard time about it, because you guys tend to follow the sign of Libra, being that you are a Libra, and you tend to put so much love into everything else and compassion that you put yourself on the back burner. And a part of this month is about stop that shit. You have Ura coming in, and the reason I'm saying this is because Ura is sacrificing commitment in the very first house, your core house, the self-awareness. So it's saying, where have you been not sacrificing and committed to yourself? Because that's where self-love is. That's where truth is. And everything else just works around the subject of what your truth is. And if your truth is kind of jaded because you're putting yourself on a back burner, then it's time to correct that. This is what Ura, or Jura, however you pronounce it, is speaking to you about. Self-awareness of your own self-love, your own personality, your own appearance, your own acceptance of that, your view of life, your image, and your identification, the very core of who and what you are. So these two are going to be here for the most part all month. Mars is going to move out on the 19th and move into Scorpio, but then it's just moving into your second house, which is still going to influence the very same thing. You also have the sun. The sun is in the Scorpio with Mars once it moves in, and Mercury, getting on top of that self-worth, self-value, self-esteem, and self-love. And when you create your self-love, your self-worth, your self-value, your self-esteem, you also create better possessions for yourself. You also create how you spend and create your money in healthier ways because you love yourself enough to be able to do it more easily. You manifest it to you. So this is asking you again, right off the bat, where's the commitment to yourself? Where's the commitment of making sure harmony and balance starts with yourself, not with yourself being on the back burner and you missing it because you took care of everybody else. You're going to be noticing this all month as this energy goes on. And like I said, Scorpio is a new moon for you. It's a double new moon. So you've definitely been feeling these energies coming up where you feel like you've been lacking in the self-worth, self-value, and self-esteem, or your self-love, because the sacrificing commitment is begging you to start giving it to yourself and to allowing it, accepting it, and trusting in it, and knowing that you're worthy of it. You're going to be acknowledging this all month, but Mercury is in retrograde. So it's going to be in a form punching you under the gut or punching you in the gut, because Mercury in communication, like I said, has no choice but to be a little self-centered. And it's going to be going, well, why? It's going to be picking at you for where you're not giving yourself that self-worth, self-value, or self-esteem, and making you want to stand in your power and do so. And the whole point is that you should. But remember, with Mercury in communication, only with you. You may be self-centered about what you are understanding. You may not be getting the whole picture. So while you're a Libra and you want to make harmony and balance in all areas of your life, you do have to come first, but you do also need to make sure you don't have full word vomit and that you're just throwing shit out there that's not true, because you're confused with that Mercury communication negatively only talking to you. Now, the third house for you happens to be Sagittarius. This is, again, right back to that communication. The third house is ruled by Mercury anyway. Mercury being in retrograde means it's only talking to you. It's not really having a proper conversation with anybody else. It's in overdrive picking at you. In Sagittarius, this is saying that you very much want to be self-righteous about, not egotistically, but you want to be self-righteous about the communication that you're speaking. You want to be honest and upfront and bold. You want to be fire with your passion and be bold enough, but a part of you is not sure if you're ready, because we're dealing with Mercury in retrograde. A part of you is not sure if you're ready to state what needs to be stated. Now, you have Jupiter here trying to teach you the abundance of the conversations that you need to say, the higher knowledge, the higher learning, making you see the truths here, bringing the magnification to the communication that needs to happen and how it should happen. Ceres, which is going to be here until the 19th, is asking you, are you nurturing these conversations properly? Are you neglecting them? Like I said, a part of you feels a little bit uncomfortable about having some of these conversations. And if you're neglecting it, then you sure as hell are not nurturing it. And you're not learning the lesson then. But when Ceres moves into the fourth house, oh, you're also going to have Venus in this third house. So you're going to be a little bit sensitive about the conversations in general, because they may not all go the way that you want. Like I said, Venus brings sensitivity to this subject, makes you know what you love and know how to charm the communication. But Venus also tells you what has hurt you, what has betrayed you, what has left you behind. And it knows how to make you feel the regret and why it hurt. You know, so you have the positives and the negatives of the communication coming in. And it's important that you listen to the depths of the truth, because the feelings are only feelings. But the feelings are that way because there's actually something beneath them. There's a different level of truth beneath them that's trying to teach you how to communicate in proper ways. But Venus isn't going to be here long, and neither is Ceres. They're both going to come out of that communication house, and they're going to jump into your fourth house. And your fourth house is all about your inner emotional security. It's all about the karmic lessons of finding out who you are and accepting yourself. It's the child within, where the child within grew up. It's where the roots of self was created. Whether they were created from ill water or not, it's still the roots of self and why the roots are the way they are. And does that affect the inner emotional security? The communication is going to come with this as Ceres and Venus move in on top of Pluto and on top of Saturn. And they're trying to give you a new foundation to find your inner emotional security with new roots to self by digging deep enough to clean off the dust, clean off the ice, clean off, the skeletons in the closet in a form. Put away what doesn't serve you because you've been holding on to false ideas of yourself and the image that you put out in areas that have affected you from finding your inner emotional security. They're asking you to get deep within that. Sirius is bringing nurturing or neglect to inner emotional security. And the rules, the walls, and the boundaries that you need to place to the people around you so that you can actually create it and find new roots to allow that inner child to come out and allow you to be enjoying in life. Allow your true inner emotional security to be found because your pursuit of pleasure in that 5th house is starting to be acknowledged. You're allowing your self-love, your self-worth, your self-value to be worthy enough to accept it. Find that inner emotional security. Heal the roots of the child wounds or just the home and the hearth, which is you, from past lives or just past. Like I said, this goes back to where we came from as a child, where we were and where we will return, because we return to the very child as we get older. We return part of our energy to that child. It's just now from an adult point of view. Trust me, as a person who takes care of my mother who's elderly, I see her becoming a child again. But she's still definitely herself. So this has to do with healing ourselves before we have to get old, and then we don't get to heal them. Inner emotional security is definitely about your upbringing and healing things that didn't work out well, so that the true child within can still breathe and enjoy life and play and remind you how to be creative and get to depths of self, which happens to bring us right into that 5th house. The 5th house for you is Aquarius. Now, you don't have anything going on in Aquarius. There is no planets here. But that doesn't make it good or bad. But I do feel like you have so much going on in the 4th house. In the 4th house, that it's going to spill into that 5th house. The 5th house is your child itself, your inner child. It's also your children, but it's your inner child. It's your creativity. It's where love is created. For you, it's also Aquarius. So you have a higher mind about what you think it should be. You also are compassionate, but you're also kind of aloof in a form. So, I mean, your hobbies, your sports, your creative expression, your dating, your romance, this is all part of how you express yourself. And if you can't get deep with your inner emotional security and the roots and who and what makes you tick and feel comfortable about your self-worth, self-value, self-esteem, and self-love, how are you ever going to bring that expression up without being so aloof, without being able to embrace that fire from within? And this is what these energies are asking you to these energies are asking you, where's the sacrifice and commitment to you, to your joy, to your happiness? And as you start to do that, you're going to find a reincarnation within yourself is taking place. Now, the 6th house is your everyday mundane tasks. This is where Pisces is. This is where Neptune is. Neptune has been in retrograde for a while with Lilith right on top of it. Lilith is our inner sexual temptress in a form. She's like our inner sexual demon. Okay, but she's asking Neptune to recreate from a passionate energy, to recreate your daily, everyday, mundane tasks in healthy, passionate sacral chakra energies of how you feel good about yourself. Your inner, like I said, your inner warrior and your inner belly dancer. If you have confidence in yourself. You're comfortable with flaunting your stuff enough. You're comfortable with flirting and being just a little bit out there. But you're also capable of being the warrior that you're capable of being, and letting people know right there's the line and that you will not cross it. Everyday mundane tasks. We let people into our everyday mundane tasks so easily because we don't realize that it's mundane. We don't realize how important the mundane is. From your daily work to your diet, to your ability to work, to your health care, and then being an employee and the tasks that you take on. But the bigger point of this is there are people, places, and things of energy you consume in your mundane tasks. Are they good for you? It's going to shut off. I'm at 30 minutes. So I'm going to come back and finish up the 6th house and finish all the way through to the 12th. So come back for part 2, and I hope that is helpful for you. Bye, guys.